Okay, awesome. Okay, so our scripture today is from the book of Luke, chapter 19, 1 through 10. Entering Jericho, Jesus passed through the city. There was a wealthy person named Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector. Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was, but he couldn't do so because of the crowd, since he was short. In order to see Jesus, Zacchaeus ran on ahead, then climbed a sycamore tree that was along the route. When Jesus came to the spot, he looked up and said, Zacchaeus, hurry up and come on down. I'm going to stay at your house today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and welcomed Jesus with delight. When everyone saw this, they began to grumble. Jesus has gone to a sinner's house as a guest? Zacchaeus stood his ground and said to Jesus, Here and now I give half my belongings to the poor, or to the poor people. If I'm defrauded anyone in the least, I'll pay them back fourfold. Jesus said to the tax collector, Today salvation has come to this house, and for this is what it means to be a descendant of Sarah and Abraham. The promised one has come to search out and save what was lost. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God.
Okay, just a heads up that this is a completely different kind of sermon. I like to write plays. I don't know if you know that, but this is a dramatic monologue, just in case you get confused. So you have to imagine me as a short little man. Good morning, my friends. Good morning. My name is... My name is... Well, it's a long story, my name. In fact, in my life, I have had several names. I was born in the great city of Jericho, a city known for its conquering hero, Yeshua, the heir of Moses, our greatest prophet, the lawgiver, Moses, the one who saw God face to face. Moses could not enter into the promised land, but Yeshua led the people here into this very city, Jericho. Yeshua was a conquering hero. His name means the salvation of God. But that was long ago. By the time I was born, my people were no longer conquerors, but conquered, defeated and occupied by empire after empire, Assyrians, Babylonians, Greeks, and finally, the worst of all, an empire so bloodthirsty, so violent, so greedy that it enslaved people wherever it went and dared to call it peace, to call it law. Caesar. What did he know about law? His laws protected the strong, the wealthy. His laws upheld violence, conquest, greed. From his seat of power in the city of Rome, Caesar sent his legions to my land, marching through the gates of our cities, forcing us to submit to their Roman gods, their Roman laws. But we would not. We had our own God, and that God had given us our own law. And that law did not uphold greed and violence, no. For the law of our God commanded us to protect the weak, the widow, the orphan, the stranger, and the outcast. We were to remember that we had once been strangers in a foreign land, enslaved in Egypt, and we were to bring God's justice, tzedek, to those who were poor. And so my father, in defiance of the occupying empire, named me Tzaddik. It means just one, righteous one, the one who brings God's justice. My mother used to call me Tzadi. God bless her. Zadi, she would call, don't be late for synagogue. How I loved to go to synagogue to learn our law. What a privilege it was to read and study Torah. My favorite was from the scroll of Deuteronomy. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice you must pursue. I was so proud to bear that name, Tzadik. The Romans didn't like it when we studied the laws of God. They didn't like the fact that we refused to worship their gods, but they put up with us as long as we paid the taxes. Ha! And what taxes? So many taxes. You think you have taxes today. We had head taxes, road taxes, bridge taxes, taxes on anything bought and sold in the market, olive oil, cloth, you name it, a different tax. Property taxes, livestock taxes. Even the prostitutes paid taxes on their earnings. Most of the poor couldn't afford to pay the taxes, so the wealthy landowners would sue them in court and seize their homes, casting them out into the street, imprisoning them, selling them and their children into slavery to pay the taxes. And the worst of the worst, the lowest of the low, were the tax collectors. The chief tax collector came from Rome. He was not one of our people, but he divided the areas into districts, and in each district, he would seek out a man to do his dirty work. These men were selected from among my people, people who had been commanded to protect the poor and the helpless. But these men, these greedy men, worked hand in hand with the Romans, handling their money, lining their pockets, exploiting their neighbors, working against their own people. They took bribes. They skimmed off the top. They collected more taxes than even the Romans demanded and kept the difference themselves. Ha! Although they lived in the finest houses in the neighborhood, they were despised by everyone. Sinners, they were called, because they broke the law of Moses, the law of Tzedek. They were no longer welcome in the synagogues, the centers of our community. They were not welcome. Let them go with the Romans, people said. Let them pray to Roman gods. Let them keep Roman laws, corruption, violence, profit, cruelty. In the synagogues, we did our best to help one another. There was always a collection, tzedakah, offering what little money we had, sharing with those who had less. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Remember God's justice, Sadi, my mother would say, as she handed me a tiny minim or another small coin to place in the box at our synagogue, an offering that would be used to help our less fortunate neighbors. And I remembered, and I studied, and I vowed to keep our laws and to honor my name, God's justice. How I wish I could have remained that small boy forever. But boys grow up, they become men. At least most boys grow up. Unfortunately, I didn't grow much. Who knows why? Why did God seek to give me this short stature? My father was not a tall man, but he was respected in the town of Jericho. He was stocky. I think he may have had to earn that respect with his fists when he was younger. He never told me. I was a full head shorter than my father. By the time I was 15, the other boys had grown so much taller. And, well, you know how cruel children can be. They stopped calling me Tzadi. Just, they would laugh. I can barely just see you. Did a fly come into the room? Maybe it was a frog, a mouse. Tzadi. Zaire, more like. Zaire. It means small. It means of little importance, like a mouse or a fly. I tried to argue with them. I would say, no, my name is Tzaddik. Like the king, Zedekiah, the righteous king, the last king, the one who refused to submit to Babylon. Zedekiah. The tallest of them, the ringleader, was a boy named Saul. tall like his namesake. He laughed and poked me with a stick. Zedekiah, that's a good one, he said. What happened to King Zedekiah? The king of Babylon said to him, the last sight you will see on this earth is your son murdered before your eyes. The boys formed a ring around me. Sire, sire, they chanted. Saul came close. They murdered Zedekiah's sons, he whispered to me, and they put out his eyes. He held a sharpened stick up to my face. Get lost, sire, he said, or I might do the same to you. What could I do? I was so much smaller than the smallest of them, and there were so many. I ran home. My mother looked up from her spinning, saw my tear-stained face. What's the matter, Zadi? She asked. Don't call me that, I shouted. From that day on, everyone but my mother called me Zaire. I was ashamed to go to the synagogue with the other boys. I made excuses. I stayed home helping my mother and sisters when my father and brothers went to study Torah. I told myself I was helping them, but the truth was I was too frightened and ashamed to show my face. One day, when my father and the others were at synagogue, some Romans came by. Roman soldiers. My mother ran into the house in terror. She knew what Roman soldiers did. I was going to follow her, but then a man stepped out from among the soldiers and looked me up and down. He was dressed in finer clothes than I had ever seen, and he wore jeweled rings on his fingers. Even one of those rings must have been worth more than our entire house and all our goats and sheep. He wore a velvet cloak and a beautiful white linen tunic. There were fine leather sandals on his feet. His hair was cut short, and his face was clean shaven. What's your name, boy? He asked. Zaire, I answered. It means, I shrugged, small. The Roman laughed. Not a cruel laugh, the way the boys had done, but a hearty laugh, the laugh of a rich, successful man who never had to worry about where he would find his next meal, who never had to worry about being bullied or threatened. Well, Mikros, he said in Greek, what are you doing at home when the others are gathered in the synagogue? I don't want to go to synagogue, I said. There's nothing there for me, just a load of boring old scrolls and stupid old men. I see you have some sense, boy, he replied. What does your father think of that? I don't care what my father thinks. He nodded as if what I had said answered an unspoken question in his mind. Well, Mikros, he said, you speak good Greek. How are you with numbers? Pretty good, I guess. I keep the accounts for my father, the goats we sell at the market. He smiled. Come work for me, Mikros, he said. Your father will never have to sell goats at the market again. Work for you? I stammered. How? My name is Marcus Eustace. I'm the chief tax collector. How about, little one, you learn to be a tax collector? Maybe the biggest one in the district, the most feared and the richest. I knew what he was offering me. He was the chief tax collector, and he wanted me to become one of his agents, become a tax collector, too. I looked up at him. But how would I be the most feared if, well, I'm so small the others laugh at me? Marcus laughed again. He looked at the soldiers standing to his left and right. Little Mikros, he shook his head, you will not collect taxes alone. I have assigned Brutus here and 10 others to assist you if any taxpayers become, shall we say, resistant. A sudden, ugly picture formed in my mind. Saul, my tormentor, on his knees before me, 2 Roman soldiers pinning him there, terror in his eyes as he pleaded with me not to throw him into debtor's prison. I looked up at Marcus. What must I do? I asked. From that day forward, I learned everything Marcus Eustace had to teach me. I learned how to speak and to write impeccable Greek and even a little Latin. I learned accounting skills. Most of all, I learned the ways of Rome, how to collect taxes without mercy. I moved out of my parents' house. My mother was ashamed of me. My father wouldn't speak to me, but it was a small price to pay when I saw the fear in the eyes of the boys who had once tormented me, called me Zaire. Now I was called Mikros, although they didn't know it also meant small. To them, it meant fear, authority, paying tribute. Of course, I wasn't welcome in the synagogue, but I hadn't been welcome there before. What did it matter? Marcus paid me visits from time to time. He knew I was keeping my own portion of the taxes I collected from Jericho and the surrounding area. You are ruthless, Mikros, he would say to me as we sat drinking wine together. I admire you. You're almost Roman, do you know that? Almost Roman. Was I supposed to be proud of that? As the years passed, I grew wealthier and wealthier. I built a fine house for myself just on the edge of town. I ignored the stares of the people of Jericho as they passed through the streets, accompanied by my bodyguards. I knew what they said about me. I knew they called me sinner, lawbreaker, unclean, but I didn't care. I was important. I was part of the great machine of Rome. I had rings of my own on my fingers, any one of which would have bought the whole town. My success was unprecedented. My dreams of revenge came true. The boys who bullied me called me tiny. When they saw me coming, flanked by Roman soldiers, they hurried to pay. They never looked me in the eye or touched me. Sometimes they flung the money onto the ground, but I didn't care. After many years, Marcus Justus retired to his villa outside Rome, and I was named chief tax collector of the whole region, the first Judean to ever hold that title. Now I had other tax collectors working for me, agents skimming off the top like I had. I received my commission from Marcus himself. Mikros Judaios, I was called. I had forgotten my own name. Forgotten my days in the synagogue, days when I'd bring my mother's small coin to place in the tzedakah box. I told myself I didn't want to go to synagogue, told myself I didn't want to eat with others. I reclined every day in the huge dining room alone at my house. Sometimes I invited the other tax collectors who were in my employ to dine, and they would grudgingly come. They worked for me, so they couldn't refuse. They hated me almost as much as they hated themselves. I told myself I wasn't lonely. I was happy, safe, successful, smart, a ruthless Roman. Still, I wished my brothers and sisters wouldn't come to my house. They never invited me to meet my nieces and nephews. My parents were dead. I had no children since I had no wife. Who would marry a traitor like me? One day I heard a strange rumor. A tax collector named Levi from the District of Galilee had suddenly quit collecting taxes and had gone off to follow some itinerant rabbi. All the tax collectors were talking about Levi, apparently this grubby preacher who some called God's chosen one, had walked up to Levi just as he was in the marketplace counting the tax money and said, "Levi, come with me." And just like that, Levi got up and followed this man whose name was apparently Yeshua, like Yeshua who had come to my city so many years ago, a name that means God's salvation. And now this tax collector was following this holy man. He was a disciple of this chosen one, and they traveled from town to town. And this man, Yeshua, was healing those who were sick. He was cleansing those with leprosy. He was in the company of suspicious women who apparently paid all his expenses. And then I heard that this Yeshua would eat at the houses of the tax collectors, that all his company would be invited into the homes of these men who had been cast out by everyone, these men who could not come to the synagogues and pray, that Yeshua, this strange and holy prophet, would eat and drink with them. And while he ate and drank with these outcasts, Yeshua proclaimed that the realm of God was drawing near. The realm of God with God's laws, God's tzedek, God's justice. One day the news came that to celebrate the Passover, the Rabbi Yeshua was traveling to Jerusalem. He was going to pass right through Jericho, not entering it like a conquering hero, but a dusty pilgrim on his way to the temple. Crowds started to gather along the edges of the road in order to catch a glimpse of this Holy One that some were calling the Messiah, the promised one who would usher in the realm of God. Cautiously, I stepped from my house. As I made my way to the gates, I saw people lining the streets, and of course, I remembered I wouldn't be able to see over the crowd. Zaire, too small, too unimportant. It's no use, I said to myself. What would this rabbi, this Mashiach, want with me? But still, I couldn't talk myself out of it. I longed to see this holy man with my own eyes. Was it true he had a tax collector with him as one of his friends, his disciples? The crowd began to cheer. Yeshua was here. Without thinking, in desperation, I girded up my robes and I ran as fast as I could in the direction of the cheering. I had to see him. There was a sycamore tree just there at the edge of the road, and I found myself clambering up the tree. No one noticed. Their eyes were all fixed on the man who was coming, and I felt so foolish, so clumsy, but who cares? I clambered up to the top of the tree, heaved my leg over the branch, poised there in the fork of the limb. I looked down, and there I could see him coming closer and closer. And yes, next to him was Levi the tax collector. And they were walking and talking and laughing like friends. A radiance shone from his face. He looked at the crowds with compassion, with love. He stopped to touch a child's face as he walked past. I had never seen such tenderness on a man's face. I hung on to that tree limb for dear life. Yeshua was about to pass right underneath me. And then suddenly, he stopped, just at the foot of the tree. His eyes moved up the trunk, the branches, the leaves, and he looked into my eyes. The crowd noticed me and began to laugh. They could not believe a man of my stature would be up in a tree like a child. But Yeshua, he did not laugh. He gazed up at me seriously, steadily, and then he spoke my name. Tzaddik, he said. Then more tenderly, Tzaddi, the name only my mother had called me. His face broke into the kindest smile I had seen since I was a child. Tzaddi, come down, he told me, with the tenderness of a mother. I must eat at your house today. My house? Eat at my house? I slid down that tree as fast as I could. I didn't care anymore. The people laughed even harder. I said, certainly, certainly, Rabbi, come. Come, you and all your friends. Come, come, I will open my home to you. What a feast we will have. Good, Yeshua said, for we have walked far and we are hungry. He clapped me on the shoulder like an old friend. You've been waiting for us, have you, Tzaddi? I nodded. It seemed that I had. I'd been waiting a long, long time for this man. Suddenly, one of the law teachers from the synagogue came forward. Rabbi, he said, you don't know what this man has done. He works for the Romans. He has betrayed our people. I looked at the crowd. Heads were nodding in agreement. He's a sinner, I heard the woman whisper. But Yeshua's hand on my shoulder gave me courage. Listen, Rabbi, I said in a loud voice. It's true what they say. I have stolen, I have lied, but this very day, see, I am giving half my money to the poor. And if, I looked at the crowd, If I have defrauded anyone at all, I will pay them back fourfold, just as it says in the Torah. The crowd gasped, but Jesus only nodded. This is what it means to be a child of Abraham and Sarah. He turned to me. Tzadi, God's justice. You were well named. You just forgot. You lost yourself for a while, but I came to find what was lost. So what is my name? Sinner and tax collector? Small and unimportant? Or tzaddik, the righteous one? My friends, we are not just one thing in this life. And we are certainly not the worst deeds we have done. One thing I know for certain, we are all children of the one who gave us life, and we are all beloved beyond all measure. So come, there is work to be done. The realm of God, of tzedakah, God's justice, is at hand, and we all, every one of us, no matter who we are, have work to do. Amen.